Now, after mixed reactions to the initial mission of a Minister of Niger Delta Development, Nigeria's President Bola Ahmed Tinubu announced Abubakar Momoh as the new Minister of the Head of Affairs in the region. The President's decision has been greeted with a mixed response, as some sections of the Nigerian populace have claimed it's a waste of funds from the government and an enabler of double budgeting to the Niger Delta Ministry and the Niger Delta Development Commission. The NDDC has had its own stories with financial mismanagement and corruption in the past few years, leading to the rejiggering of its board by former President Muhammadu Buhari. While former administrations have also named a Minister of Niger Delta and funded the NDDC, more questions have been raised as to the intention of having both establishments. Can both establishments operate side by side? What does their presence mean to the Niger Delta region and Nigeria? And now joining me tonight on Politics HQ for this important conversation is foremost Niger Delta activist Ankyo Briggs. She is the convener of Niger Delta Self-Determination Movement. A warm welcome to you, Madam Briggs. Always a pleasure having you join us on Politics HQ.
Thank you very much. Good evening, and thank you for having me.
Now, Madam, I'd like to begin with one of the poses that was asked in our intro to this topic. Can both the Niger Delta Development Commission and the Ministry of Niger Delta work side by side? And what do you make of the initial omission of the Ministry of Niger Delta Minister from the list of nominees? It did cause quite a stir.
First of all, to ask the question that whether something like the NDDC, which is as a direct result of the agitation of the Niger Delta people over a very long period of time, until when Obasanjo became the president. During Abacha's time was when once again the Niger Delta agitation started. And then during Obasanjo's time, it increased, and Obasanjo came up with the NDDC. During Yar'Adua's time, from Obasanjo's time, the agitation went on, and we were offered the Ministry of Niger Delta. So to ask, to say that can the two work side by side? It's like asking, can the existing Northeast Development Commission, can it work side by side with any other agency or ideas to develop that area or any area for that matter of Nigeria? For me, that should be the first answer. The second answer will come from how we in the Niger Delta actually see the lack of development in the Niger Delta and the corruption, if you like, in my opinion, and in the analysis that we have constantly in the Niger Delta, is that corruption as an act, an action, is actually built into these agencies. It's built into the Ministry of Niger Delta. It's built into the NDDC. Now, the reason why I say that is because we all agree that there is corruption going on, like in any other place in Nigeria, in these agencies. Now, the question that we need to have answered is, how is it that corruption goes on in these places, and why does it go on? And the government that supposedly is supposed to supervise these agencies allow this corruption, as it allows corruption in every place, to go on. So that's the 2 points I want to put down when it comes to that question, and we will go back to it if times allow. Now, You also asked about the reaction or the impression, the original
Omission of the minister. Yes.
yes, the original information that actually the Ministry of Niger Delta has been taken off the list of the ministries. The government itself did not actually openly say so, but by omission, by omitting an existing ministry, by not mentioning whether he had allocated or not allocated. But in this case, on the day that I reacted, on the day actually that it was announced that he had attached portfolios to the ministers, was when I first reacted. I went through the list and I realized that the Ministry of Niger Delta is not on that list. And that was my first reaction on that very day. And subsequently, a couple of days later, PANDEF also issued a statement resisting or warning, if you like, which was actually what I also did prior to that. That the omission of the Ministry of Niger Delta is a very dangerous omission. And if it was done on purpose, it should be corrected immediately. Because to take away a ministry that the Niger Delta people know that belongs to them, even if it is based in Abuja, which
Yes.
I, as a person, have always resisted to say that you can't create a ministry for the Niger Delta people to address the issues that they have been fighting for, and then you base it in Abuja under the structures under the structures, if you like, of the federal government to bring it as if it is like any other ministry. The Ministry of Niger Delta is not like any other ministry. It is specifically for the Niger Delta people, whether other Nigerians like it or not. It is for the Niger Delta. And mind you, the monies that goes to supposedly is meant to go to the NDDC and meant to go to the Ministry of Niger Delta is actually coming from the Niger Delta. So I quite honestly do not understand why anybody should argue or should say, like we heard that Okalo, the former governor of Abia State, said that the Niger Delta ministry should be scrapped. I think any idea to suggest that it's very dicey to say the least. Just because the Niger Delta is calm does not and should never be taken that the Niger Delta people are happy with how governance has been going for a very, very, very long time.
Now, Madam Briggs, the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs and the Niger Delta Development Commission, the NDDC, they hold very crucial mandates. Could you provide an overview of their roles in fostering the development of the oil-rich Niger Delta region, especially in the light of recent developments in that area? You've been on this program a few times and you've talked about the lack of development in those places. How can we get this ministry and agency to work at optimum level so as to bring some succor and development to the to that region that has provided Nigeria with very crucial foreign exchange revenue?
You see, the thing is that every government that Nigeria has had has taken the Niger Delta people for granted over a very, very long period of time. Before the NDDC, which, if I may add, is an agency created by law and is entitled, it is actually an intervention agency. It is not. The name is actually very confusing. And again, personally, I argued about that when it was offered, as far back as 1999 and then into 2000, when it was being discussed that you cannot create an agency and call it a developmental agency and then describe it as an intervention agency. Those two words are not the same. That's one. And two, as far back as before independence, there was a meeting that was held in the United Kingdom before independence, and some of our leaders were in that meeting. And the argument that we, our leaders, proposed on our behalf was one, that we wanted to be, if you like, a region on its own within the coming independent Nigeria, because we have suffered lack of development for as long as we can remember. Now, from that, there was a creation that was the River Basin Authority. Moving forward, we also had another authority that was created that was called UMPADEC. And after UMPADEC was when NDDC came. So you can see that, as I always say, constantly, the Niger Delta people, when we agitate, are given something, just something, to keep us quiet. And unfortunately, our leaders, our politicians, and our traditional rulers are not able to grasp this deceit. And so we end up accepting these things, even as far, I can go fast forward and even mention the PIB bill. The PIB bill is supposed to be local to the region that produces oil. It's supposed to be local to the communities that produces oil. It's supposed to go directly to the communities that produce oil. And yet, at the end of the day, when it ended up in the National Assembly, we couldn't recognize it. I understand it. I was aware. We fought for these things. And we have to keep reminding Nigerians that we fought for these things. And so for the PIB bill to move from the PIB bill to PIA, it's not the same thing that Yaradua discussed with us. The 10% has gone down, far down, to less than 3%. And then the other aspect of it, which was that the oil producing communities should be shareholders in the oil companies that were exploring for oil and gas in their communities. And now we have a situation where gas has come up. And the reason why all of a sudden we're hearing that gas is going to stand on its own, I'm not saying it shouldn't. Actually, it should, because it will give us a better insight, the secrecy, in my opinion, around gas and how much gas we actually are bringing out from the Niger Delta, I think would be laid more bare for us to actually see. Now, when you say, when the government says that it is now bringing gas to stand on its own and petroleum to stand on its own, we are asking ourselves exactly what does that, how does that benefit the Niger Delta people? Well, it doesn't, from where we're sitting, because what we're seeing now is that there are pipelines going from directly from the belly of the creeks into across Nigeria, going into Niger, from Niger going across and then going into Morocco. This gas is going to Europe. Now, we can't even get gas ourselves to heat our, to cook with, or to do, or to develop ourselves with, or to get electricity. And yet this gas is going to be piped all the way into Europe. And all of a sudden, America and Europe and Russia and China are arguing among themselves, carving Africa up with the resources within those places that they are carving for themselves. So most of these things, for me, that this government is packaging as ministries, and as much as it affects the Niger Delta and the Niger Delta people, their future and development, we have to really begin to ask ourselves, these people, whether they be our governors, whether they be our representatives, whether they be a president of Nigeria, whatever these things and these people are, Niger Delta people need to start all over again.
And it
Again,
should
we
go
must go
beyond,
into agitation mode.
and it definitely should go beyond the tokenism, which you've suggested that has been the modus operandi of previous governments. Now, moving on, Madam Briggs, policy implementation and project execution are crucial aspects of regional development. There's a new sheriff in town, there's a new government with a renewed hope mandate to provide a better lease of life for Nigerians. And I believe that also extends to the Niger Delta. From your point of view and looking at the needs assessment of the people of the Niger Delta region, what sort of policies or projects do you believe this current administration should focus on and prioritize as they look to enhance the Niger Delta's socio-economic landscape?
The landscape, social economics development of the Niger Delta, from where we are sitting as Niger Delta people, and what we have endured and gone through from government to government, this government, in our opinion, is not going to be any different from the past government.
Why do you say so?
We're not. I will tell you, because we're not. We've been so beaten up and battered that we don't trust. There is this essence of lack of trust. We don't believe anything the government says that it is going to do for the Niger Delta people, because when you say you're going to do these things for the Niger Delta people, you have to have the money to do these things to, if you like, walk the talk that you are talking. And when you are pouring in monies into other areas, and none is, in our opinion, coming to the Niger Delta. People say, oh, there is corruption in the ministry, for
in
instance,
NDDC,
of the or NDDC. I totally agree with you. I have never said that there is no corruption in the NDDC. What I have maintained, along with my people, is that identify not only the corruption, but identify the people perpetrating the corruption. Now, NDDC for 8 years under Buhari was shifted from where it was before, attached to an arm of the government, and brought into the Ministry of Niger Delta. And so basically, therefore, the money that is so-called allocated to the NDDC is tied into and down into the money that is coming into the Ministry of Niger Delta. And so automatically you can see that there is there can be no clear cut, as far as we're concerned, to say that this is for the Niger Delta Ministry, because the money comes, the Niger Delta Ministry, and then this is for the NDDC.
Yes.
The money comes in the past 8 years, and the money also goes out in the past 8 years. We had what happened in the NDDC. I'm trying to get my thoughts right here now. That they had a commission and they looked into the corruption of the NDDC. Now, where is that report? We don't know whether who and who were corrupt. Who were the people that were given the jobs? Where were they from? What jobs were they given? Up till today, Akpabio, as at then, has not released the
we all recall the off your mic incident, Honorable. Could you off your mic during the probe? But you're like you rightly said, we've not seen the result of that. Who was held responsible for corruption, and what did that panel? What are the recommendations of that panel? Very crucial questions. Now, Madam Briggs, because we're fast running out of time, but the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs and NDDC have the potential to drive economic progress in the region. You were part of those that fought the battle to establish some of this ministries and commission. In your opinion, what sorts of strategies could the current government employ to stimulate economic growth and empower local communities to get it out of its current state? Is it something that is doable?
Of course, it is doable if the people that wear the shoes are allowed to look at the pain that they are feeling with the feet that they are that is in the shoes. You can't say that you are going to develop the Ministry of Niger. The Niger Delta region, and yet you pick the people without asking the Niger Delta people, what is your problem? You don't know what our problems are. You bring in politicians and you compensate them with positions in the Ministry of Niger Delta. You compensate them with positions in the Petroleum Ministry and now gas. You compensate them with the Niger Delta allocations. And yet you claim that this is what this is the path that you're going to use to develop the Niger Delta. And we are saying no. You cannot develop the Niger Delta in this way. You have to be able to speak with the communities. The Niger Delta is a unique region, it's a different region, and we produce what is used to develop every other part of Nigeria. And we still cannot understand why we cannot also use what is in our land to develop the Niger Delta region. Our politicians have failed us, we agree that they have failed us. But you know, that can be stopped if the Niger Delta people are allowed to be involved in the development of the Niger Delta region.
In conclusion, Madam Briggs, it's the government needs to get back to the roots and talk to the ordinary people that matter, the people in the region, and not by compensating a few people from the Niger Delta region and giving them positions as heads of agencies or ministers does not go far. Thank you so much for your insights and contribution on the program. As always, Madam Ankyo Briggs, convener, Niger Delta Self-Determination Movement. Always a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having me.